Grand Rising, everybody. Grand
Hey,
Monday. Hopefully, everyone's doing well.
Peace, everybody. Peace, y'all.
Grand Rising free, no sellout. Bones, how y'all doing?
Grand Rising, everyone. All is well my way. Hope the same for you.
Yeah. It's well. It is well. So let's go ahead and see who we got in the chat this rising. Grand Rising Marlon P. Grand Rising Ladarian Woods. Grand Rising Copper Color Queen. Grand Rising You Don't Want It. Grand Rising Oak Cliff. Gotta put that k in there when you say oak. So Grand Rising to the new subscribers. What'd you say, Bones?
say it like you mean it.
Grand Rising to the new subscribers. Grand Rising to those that are just listening and gathering information to serve their community. Hope everyone's having a great Monday rising, and hopefully you had a phenomenal weekend. Speaking of weekends, I had an opportunity to go to the In My Bag tour in Philly on Saturday. Great turnout. Gave out over 300 book bags to the youth. So that was a good thing. And ran into some phenomenal women that were supporting the In My Bag tour in Philly. They're a nonprofit called FIG, and they became subscribers on the spot. So shout out to the nonprofit organization FIG, and we look forward to doing some great work with you in
Much
the
respect.
Philadelphia area. Exactly. So, Grand Rising Michael Robinson. So everybody ready for what we about to get into after the public service announcement?
Get them hard hats ready. Triple enforced. Trying out some new technologies.
Michael Robinson said, "My brother's in Philly. He's hard headed though." I'm sure with time he'll grow out of it. I was once a hard headed individual myself. Some people still say I'm hard headed, so never know.
Before I forget, all who sent in your emails with questions on genealogy, you'll have your response by this evening.
Exactly. Yeah, we have some information for you that's going to make it that much easier to reach out and access your the individuals on your family tree. It'll make the process a lot easier. So yeah, stay tuned. All right, so before we go ahead and dive into what we're going to be talking about this rising, this section of Grand Rising, or the whole section of Grand Rising show, How Was the Redman Part of the Huguenots' Plan, is brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. Autochthonous Assembly is the gathering of minds that do the work. And for those of you who are new and don't know quite who we are, Autochthonous Assembly is a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up indigenous American voices by using genealogy, also known as family history or their family tree, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineage and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which are essential to our success and serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. And those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is knowing and doing what is right; respect, which is treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, which is embracing opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serving the common good. Here at the Autochthonous Assembly, Our goal is to help you do your genealogy. We are not genealogists, but we do have some expertise based off of the success that we've had, not only helping our family members and ourselves, but also just reaching out and connecting with individuals that do the work. So our goal is to help you tie into your tribes. If that is something that you choose to do, at the very least, know who your tribe is. Our goal is to help you at least go 4 generations back, so that when it comes to getting with a genealogist that's in the tribe, they can tell you where your family comes from. Our other goal is to help you become financially independent and to have financial success. And if you should choose to use that information that we provide free of charge, then that's great. If you also would like to use that information to help your community and your tribe, that's even better. We're not here to tell you who you are, and we're not here to tell you who you are not. That's not our concern. Our concern is to help you do your genealogy and find out who you are. And we are not here to get in your business. Just provide information as we grow and expose this information and learn together. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the panel and let them say what they need to say as we get ready for this Monday's, let's call it excavation. Yeah, that's it. All right, I relinquish the mic. Y'all got it for now.
Well. Like, not everybody at once.
I know,
but
right?
No, this should be interesting on the show today, especially the information that a lot of the relatives, some probably heard it before, some this might be their first time ever hearing this. So yeah, it's going to be shocking, and it's going to start putting a light on a lot of things that, without knowing this information, it makes finding out who you are and finding out what was done very difficult. So
exactly.
Another hard hat.
Free. What was your thought process, or what was going through your mind as we were going over this information?
Well, I definitely find it helpful in terms of being able to keep your mind right, to know what actually was going on during said given day and time. The world looks very different as opposed to what we're used to nowadays after they've had, a few hundred years to try to get this all ironed out. But I think it's pretty sobering in context to just see how patient they can be and also how intentional they can be. But I don't know, lots of thoughts. Lots of thoughts, as I'm sure we'll probably share a lot of those going through this information. So.
Yeah. So I want to send a shout out and grand rising to Big Hawk, Pamela Hall, Golden Moon, and Carrie Bay. Grand rising, y'all. Glad y'all was able to catch a cab this rising. Also wanted to send a shout out to Lady J. She joined the forum on Friday. So welcome to the forum family. We look forward to you being able to contribute, and hopefully we can help you with whatever your endeavors are from that standpoint. So I'm going to put in the links to what we were talking about. The first link basically gives you a snapshot of what Benjamin Franklin was talking about when he discusses the swarthy Germans, or as he calls them, the stupid swarthy Germans. And it's interesting how the narrative is even changed and the wording is changed from what is actually in the National Archives. Yes, This is in the National Archives.
Ain't no secret.
Nope. So it ain't like they didn't know. But before we do that, we gotta let everybody know where they at. So we're gonna go ahead and send out these warnings so people can know exactly where we at, where we are, and what's about to happen. So let's go.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots, required.
And we gotta give y'all some construction music. I call it construction music. While y'all putting y'all gear on. So nobody won't get hit with any flying debris. So here we go. Alright. So hopefully everybody with a ratchet checked everybody's gear. Make sure those helmets are double strapped and they got the shin guards on and everything else. Grand Rising David Corey. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna read from paragraph 21. Because as you can see, we're reading from the founders.archives.gov, which is in the National Archives. And there are and there are basically 24 paragraphs that this what I call a rant is broken down into. And
whose words again are we reading? Just to be clear.
Benjamin Franklin. So we're going to start with paragraph 21.
Benjamin.
Yep, Benjamin. Really?
Drop it on the twos.
On it? Really? Not to choose.
Remember what Danielle said, not the ones and threes, though.
So much better than the ones and threes. My goodness gracious. Shout out to Danabelle.
Wow. Okay, so here we go. Grand Rising Enrique. So hopefully everybody's ready for this. Gotta remember, this is in the 1700s. So the wording is going to be a little funny. It's not the English that we used to. It's a mixture of the Queen's English and the English from the 1700s.
And like you said, so since you know the year of where we're reading from, use the definitions of the words from the same year of what we're reading from. Don't use the updated definitions. It'll throw you.
Boy, will it ever.
Yep. It's about to throw me.
Right. So, we are ready when you are, sir.
Live and direct. Straight from, where you coming from again?
The construction site?
From over here.
From over here.
Not over there, over here. No, I'm ready.
Here.
Somebody read, please.
Hopefully everybody has found where we're reading from by now. If not, you can just listen to the sound of my voice. Grand Rising. Grand Rising. All right, so we're starting with paragraph number 21. The importation of foreigners into a country that has as many inhabitants as the present employments and provisions for subsistence will bear, will be in the end no increase of people, unless the newcomers have more industry and frugality than the natives, and then they will provide more subsistence and increase in the country, but they will gradually eat the natives out. nor is it necessary to bring in foreigners to fill up any occasion vacancy in a country. For such vacancy, if the laws are good, will soon be filled by natural generation. Who can now find the vacancy made in Sweden, France, or other warlike nations by the plague of heroism 40 years ago? In France, by the expulsion of the Protestants. In England, by the settlement of her colonies. Or in Guinea, by 100 years exportation of slaves that has blackened half America? Question mark. The thinness of inhabitants in Spain is owing to national pride and idleness and other causes, rather than to expulsion of the Moors or to the making of new settlements.
Stop.
Period.
Stop right there. Stop.
Oh, I will. Trust me.
Stop.
And you're right. This is a rant.
Yeah, that's exactly
Like
what
I
it
was
is.
ranting at the beginning. I was like, where your punctuation at be?
So, for those of you who are just joining us, we're reading basically a rant and frustration coming from one Benjamin Franklin, who is irritated about the prospect of France bringing over more newcomers. Grand Rising Joe 47. Yeah, he's upset, and he's taking an account or talking about what's been happening. And the reason why we started at 21, because this is one of the more poignant parts where he's basically talking about the game plan that has already been in place. One of the paragraphs he says, unless the newcomers have more industry and frugality than the natives. You got to realize the Indians were a people of service. So when he said the natives were frugal, they didn't believe in waste. They were charitable people. We didn't believe in wasting anything because we believe that we don't own anything. So if you don't own it, why would you waste it? And talking about industry, very industrious people. We taught the newcomers, the colonizers, the immigrants a lot. From everything about bathing and fragrance to you name it. So Benjamin's concern was that unless these newcomers are going to be more industrious and more frugal, then why are they coming over here? And then he was saying they will gradually eat the natives out, meaning they will be more harm than good. Go ahead, Bones.
Basically, burn up the resources from the natives.
Because he wasn't worried about the resources that they had. He was worried about the resources of the natives. Remember, the natives were the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed them. So if you burn out their resources and they're the ones that know the land, that's going to be a big problem. So obviously, from these statements and from what we're reading thus far, there must have been a serious plan to send a large amount of people over here.
Well, we know that from prior readings, from 15 million Irish and Germans.
Exactly. So that's what we wanted to put you in a position of understanding. And, Copper just dropped a nice link, which is going to come in handy.
I know, right?
Yes, you see it? Yeah.
You're just loading up the utility belt right now.
So yeah, that's going to be cool. So hopefully he'll be able to come in and talk about that when we drop the atomic bomb on everybody. And many of you probably have already seen this information, but based off of the information that we've been exposed to and we've been sharing, it should put things in better perspective. My mic is coming in just a tad bit loud, excuse me. Y'all should have said something. My bad. Anyway. So, I just wanted to put that plug in there so people can understand what's being said and what we're actually hearing, because I had to read it a couple of times, and then Bones and them had to explain it to me a couple of times before I even knew what they was talking about. I'm like, wait, what? That don't make any sense. But yeah. So let's go on to this paragraph number 22 of the founders.archives.gov, and then we'll go from there. So you can continue reading, sir. No setup.
That link is in the chat, I believe, right? It's up there.
Yeah, the link is in chat. I'll go ahead and re-slap it in there, repost it.
That'll work.
Thank you, sir, for the reminder.
Number 22. There is, in short, no bound to the prolific nature of plants or animals, but what is made by their crowding and interfering with each other's means of subsistence. So a word more. Was the face of the earth vacant of other plants? It might be gradually sowed and overspread with one kind only, as for instance with fennel. And were it empty of other inhabitants, it might in a few ages be replenished from one nation only, as for instance with Englishmen. Thus there are supposed to be now upwards of 1 million English souls in North America, though 'tis thought scarce 80,000 have been brought over sea. And yet perhaps there is not one the fewer in Britain, but rather many more, on account of the employment the colonies afford to manufacturers at home. This million doubling, suppose but once in 25 years, will in another century be more than the people of England, and the greatest number of Englishmen will be on this side of the water.
Stop.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna clear my throat. I wasn't gonna say another word. Mic check, am I coming in clear?
No, you're coming in. You're coming in crystal.
All right, I'm gonna go on mute.
So as you can tell by reading this, their goal is to have their population double to 2 million in the next 25 years.
Mm-hmm. And what they let you know, 2 million Englishmen in America is way more what's in so-called England.
Mm-hmm. So that lets you know how small their population is.
Well.
And why is that important? You'll find out by the time we get to paragraph 24.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
So it's just interesting, because this what we're hearing is their plan and what they're hoping to do, and what you'll find out in paragraphs 23 and 24, how France could potentially mess it up, so to speak. So just wanted to point that out. I'm sorry, go ahead. No sell out.
All right. We're on number 23? No, we're not on 22.
No,
we're not. Let me find where was that.
this million doubling.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna read that one again, and then start from there. This million doubling, supposed but once in 25 years, will in another century be more than the people of England, and that the greatest number of Englishmen will be on this side the water. What an accession of power to the British Empire by sea as well as land. What increase of trade and navigation. What numbers of ships and seamen. We have been here but little more than 100 years, and yet the force of our privateers in the late war united was greater, both in men and guns, than that of the whole British Navy in Queen Elizabeth's time.
Stop.
Let me tie my shoe real quick.
So they're talking about the increases that have happened since they've been here, since 100 years they've been here. And they're saying they have been here a little more than 100 years, and yet the forces of their privateers in the late war united was greater, both in men and guns, than what the whole British Navy in Queen Elizabeth's time.
Yep.
Oh, Cliff caught that. 100 years. So already they'd already been here 100 years. And that time frame is very important. So if they already been here 100 years, and this is what years was this supposed to be? Anybody remember? 1751. He wrote this in 1751, and they had already been here 100 years. So that means from 1651 to now, they've already been. They've already mixed with the Indians. They've already started the quote unquote bleaching out process, whitening out process. So now they have amassed enough numbers to where they will outnumber, or they have outnumbered and outgunned the Queen and the whole British Navy, Queen Elizabeth.
So England did what again?
I'm sorry, Bones, what was that question?
So England supposedly did what when they was outnumbered this badly?
Oh, they were supposed to beat Scotland in 1770. We haven't even got to that part yet. This is 1751. This is before they mastered. This is before the Revolutionary War. This is before all that. So they're still in the early stages of their planning. Grand Rising, Jay. So I just want
to touch on that. Who is the superpower of Europe at this time?
It would be France. Yeah, be France.
Oh. The superpower that nobody ever talks about. I forget that they ever had a long reign. One of the longest reigns.
That would be true. That would definitely be true.
That small minority of people I kept talking about on Friday when I kept quoting racism as a worldwide behavioral system. Starting to see who this small minority of people really, truly, honestly is.
Mm-hmm.
We, but not we.
So, go ahead, no sellout. You can pick up where it says how important an affair.
All right. How important an affair then to Britain is the present treaty for settling the bounds between her colonies and the French? And how careful should she be to secure room enough, since on the room depends so much the increase of her people?
So they're talking about already settling the bounds between her colonies and the French. So they're already talking about uniting with the French. So them separating, colonies separating from Great Britain is already in the work.
But from the numbers, Britain wasn't big enough to keep them anyway.
Nope.
When there was more people here than there was on the whole island.
Yep.
Well, if they couldn't do that, how are we supposed to believe a handful of them conquered the whole continent and made everybody a slave?
Don't do that. You're just being disrespectful now. Come on.
I'm sorry, but no, not really.
You know we're supposed to just fall in line and believe everything somebody tell us. Everything somebody put in the book without researching. So check.
Man, I still got a problem drawing straight lines. What y'all talking about?
Even with a ruler. Anyway.
No, I don't believe in rulers.
I heard that, Bones.
Let's talk about the measuring device, but never mind. Moving on, no sellout. Paragraph 23, please, sir. Now, pay attention to this analogy. I think this is an analogy that he's using. And you'll see exactly what they're talking about. It's an analogy, right, Frank?
Hard hat, strap them down.
Mic check.
Yes, go ahead, boss.
Two. Okay. In fine, a nation well regulated is like a polypus. Take away a limb, its place is soon supplied. Cut it in two, and each deficient part shall speedily grow out of the part remaining. Thus, if you have a room and subsistence enough if you have room and subsistence enough, as you may by dividing make 10 polyps out of one. You may of one make 10 nations, equally populous and powerful, or rather, increase a nation tenfold in numbers and strength. And since detachments of English from Britain sent to America will have their places at home so soon supplied and increase so largely here, why should the Palatine Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours?
Stop.
You want me to do it now?
Stop.
Okay. All right.
What type of Moors again was that?
Palatine Boers.
Palatine Boers.
Boers with a B. No, Boers with a B.
Like
Bravo. So what they're doing is they're talking about mixing in with a tribe. And when you mix in with that tribe, you're basically creating two separate divisions. And then those divisions can create separate divisions, and then you can create a nation of people. But the concern is that if the Palatine Boers are to come in and swarm the settlements by herding together and establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours. So what they're saying is that these Palatine Boers don't speak like them. They don't have the same manners, and they're going to come in and basically overtake them. Why are they so concerned with Europeans or Germans, because that's who the Palatines were? Why are they so concerned with these Germans coming in and overtaking them outside of the language? Keep that in mind. Keep going. No sell out.
Mm-hmm. Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion?
Acquire y'all what?
Complexion.
Your what?
Complexion.
I
want to read that again, actually.
Please do. Read it one more time.
Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion?
Exactly. So they're concerned about not only them being overtaken by the Germans and having their language, meaning the European or the England language, eradicated and outnumbered, but they also are insinuating that these Palatine Boers with a B will never acquire their language. They'll never acquire the English customs, and they will never acquire the English complexion. Exactly, David Corey.
2019, isn't it 2019? And if you was to study Pennsylvania, you would find out the majority of their towns are German settlements. Their language is still German to this day. German ancestry.
Exactly.
Grand Rising Ab TV. Glad you caught that cab.
Peace, Ab TV. What's going on, bro? Hope all is well. It's interesting because this is coming from the National Archives. So this is what they wrote. This is documented. It can be pulled up. And I'm sure many of you have seen this before in some form or fashion and probably even talked about it. But we thought it was appropriate enough to bring back out, or to bring out, because it tied into everything that we had been talking about earlier. So when it comes to the plans that have been put in place, so they're already 100 years in the Americas dealing with Indians. And they have already started to lighten the complexion of the Indians. And now their concern is, should they align with France and sign treaties with France and attain some of the land from France? Because you got to remember, before the English got here, 75% of the United States, as we know it, was New France.
Bingo. Way before the Spanish even thought about coming here.
So these English are trying to carve out a larger landmass for themselves because the French own it. So let's not get it twisted. The French at this particular time own a lot of this land, regardless of what the history books say.
You know the question that everybody should ask?
What's that, Bone?
The English was about colonizing and taking over land. Why they only had 13 colonies? Because France was already inland and entrenched.
Mm-hmm. They had Canada. They had the East Coast of the United States, all the way to the Midwest, all the way down south. Jason Swan says, "What do y'all know about Ben Franklin?" Well,
we finna drop the bomb. We ain't dropped the bomb yet. Woo! Just finna drop.
Yeah, Jay, it is from his essay. We got it from the National Archives. So you're absolutely right.
Yep, his words.
Exactly. David Corr says Canada used to be where New York and Ohio area was. Matter of fact, Canada, according to some of the New France maps, went as far south as Virginia, which is the reason why some people are having problems finding their ancestors in Virginia, because you will have to look at French archives.
And remember, that part, when the French had it, was upper Louisiana, and what you consider Georgia and Tennessee and all that, that was lower Louisiana.
Right. Ben Franklin said this in 1751, according to this article. So let's remind everybody where they at, because this is about to get really good and really interesting, and we're about to re-expose those to this information and expose people for the first time to this information as we start to connect more of these dots.
Oh, is that my cue?
Now I was playing the construction.
My bad.
No, you good.
Now, answering the answer of Pamela Hall real quick. When we come across these areas, when you realize they were under occupation by other people, that's the country or the nation's records that you want to check. A lot of us can't find certain records because we're looking for U.S. records when we need to be studying French records. Once you get back to a particular point of time where it was France, that's where you will have to check their churches that they had over here, their establishments that they had over here. Just a quick tidbit.
Exactly. All right, it's time. So let's let them have it, and we can go from there and build from there. No sellout.
Oh, was that my cue?
Yes.
No, okay. Peace, y'all. Okay, so complexion, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionably very small.
One more time, hold on. Start that over.
Yeah. You like how that sounded anyway. Which leads me to add one remark that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionably very small. All Africa is black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of newcomers, wholly so.
Stop. You cannot.
Turn the car off. Just turn the cab off. Just turn
You
it
cannot.
off right now.
You cannot. You cannot.
Did you at least put the emergency blinkers on before you hit the brakes?
Nope. I slammed the brake and called the pile out.
That's it.
And I snatched the keys out and just threw them out on the expressway.
Oh man, can I read that one more time, please?
Please
Yes,
do.
please do.
Which leads me to add one remark that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionably very small. All Africa is black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also, the Saxons only excepted, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. I could wish their numbers were increased.
Stop.
All my pause.
Let's
I almost got caught by that hook. That hook came fast too. I like, whoa.
let's look up the definition or the etymology of swarthy, just so there's no misunderstanding.
Holy so.
And I'm going to put this in the chat so those can look and do your research on your own. Swarthy, dark colored, especially of kin, 1580s, unexplained alteration of swarty, from swart plus y. Related, swarthiness. So dark colored, dark skin. So
But I'm done.
Benjamin Franklin, in his letter, aka what we call his rant, is claiming out of his own mouth that all of Africa is black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. Let's see what tawny. Let's see what tawny means, because I don't want to.
Not just tawny, chiefly tawny at that.
What does tawny mean?
Let me get that chiefly too when you're done with Tawny.
Tan colored, late 14th century from Anglo-French tawny, or
Anglo who?
Anglo-French tawny,
Oh,
of or
French
like
again.
of or like the brownish yellow of tanned leather, from Old French tannet, dark brown tan, past participle of tanner, a tan's hides, from medieval Latin tannere, tawniness. So is there any confusion of what tawny means?
No, David Corey. They're not just tawny, they're chiefly tawny.
I would like to know what chiefly is considered at that time. What is chiefly?
I can look it up. Since you're being persnickety.
I mean, can you look that up too, right behind that one?
They use all these words intentionally.
Okay, chiefly, preeminently, above all, in the first place, mid 14th century from chief, adjectival meaning.
Hold up. So, wait a minute. Before you, wouldn't that be the same as the Africa description?
No. Listen to what they're saying though. Chiefly tawny, meaning from the beginning they were tawny. At first they were dark skinned.
I hear you. Me hear you.
My oh my.
All right, moving along.
Jay, I put the etymology of swarthy in the link already. I'll read it again if you would like.
Yeah, I would like.
Swarthy means dark colored, especially of skin. 1580s. It says unexplained alteration of swarthy. 1517 is from swart plus y. Related swarthiness. So when they say something is chiefly, go ahead, Free.
How does it go from swarthy to next thing you know you have a Schwarzenegger running around here? How does that?
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Free. All in my head, just right.
Goodness gracious.
So Benjamin Franklin is telling us that all of Africa is black or tawny, dark skin and light skin. Asia is chiefly light skin. America, exclusive of the newcomers. Who would the newcomers be? Who would be the newcomers?
These swarthy Germans and Scots that Franklin complaining about, because you have a continent full of dark people already. So if you bring more in, it makes their plan harder. Done.
Okay, so it says holy so. Holy means holy, not halfly. And it's spelled HOHOLLY. Let's look that up.
Yeah, please do. I like words.
Let's look up holy.
Oh, yeah.
WHOLLY.
It's going down.
Holy.
Keyboard.
From whole, WHOLE, or a modification of unrecorded Old English hallis. So let's look up whole. Whole. From holy. Old English, how? Entire. Whole. Unhurt, uninjured, safely healthy, sounds genuine, straightforward. From Proto-Germanic Hala, undamaged. Dutch heel, Old High German heel, salvation, welfare. From Pi, Kalo, whole, uninjured, of good omen. Source also Old Church Slavonic, whole, complete. See help. That's right, David Carey. Holy, HWHOLLY, not holy, HOLLY. So it means complete or entire. Exactly.
So basically, all of America, they're telling you, is melanated, except for them coming in. And remember, melanation comes in different shades. It don't mean everybody dark skin. You're from the tannest of tan to the darkest of dark, all over this continent.
Just because you got a nation in it don't mean that you're part of a tribe.
And J. Susquehanna says at the time that Ben Franklin wrote that essay, the Black King George was sitting on the throne.
It would make sense, because why else would France be sent? Think of the population of the people. We know that they sent, what was that, Scotland? They sent more than half their population over here.
Mm-hmm.
So if more than half their population is being sent over here, and Franklin telling you they swarthy, that's why they don't want them here, who was running these places?
So then it goes on to say that Europe, the Spaniards, Italian, French, Russian, Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. The Saxons only...
One more time, please. Just in case somebody just hopped in the cab,
It says, and in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call swarthy complexion. Now, you already saw that it means dark skin, dark complexion. As are the Germans, also the Saxons, only excepted, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. Stop. You mean to tell me that with the exception of the Saxons and some English, everybody else was
Melanated.
melanated?
That's what they say. That's what's written, black and
That's
white.
what Ben Franklin's telling you.
Benjamin.
Had to drop that bomb. Had to do it. Now, again, many of you already knew this. But what this does is it puts things in its proper perspective when we were looking at how they were trying to get rid of us and send us other places. And how their goal was to basically lighten our existence or remove our existence.
This is the thing that stuck out to me. They tried to tell us that 307,000 so-called African slaves were brought to North America, right? So how in 1751, this man is telling you that America is wholly so melanated? Where all these melanated people came from then if you only bought 300,000? Where the rest of them come from to cover the whole landmass? South America, what you call Central America, Canada.
I think there was
300,000 people.
they had a border wall right before that. They tore it down, and that's why they're trying to rebuild one. Is that what it is? No? Okay.
So El Carpatone says, so are y'all saying some of us are in fact descendants of black Europeans who mix with our Indian families? What I am saying, EJ Carpatone, is do your genealogy. Because I don't know who mixed with who and who came out what. That's why it's important. It's possible. If what Ben Franklin is saying is true, then there's a possibility.
Look at what we know. We know 15 million of them came. We know the majority of them was swarthy. We know the majority of them came into the South and lived because they blended in with the Indians. So until you do your genealogy, you won't have no idea. Can't use the eye test.
We also know that many of the tribes of what they call the civilized tribes were claiming Black Dutch and Black Irish so that they can keep the land on the East Coast so they would not get sent out west. So if they're claiming Black Irish and Black Dutch, obviously there had to be some Black Irish and some Black Dutch here. So that's how we would deduce that. But I can't tell you who we descend from. I can only tell you based off of your genealogy who you descend from. So, everything's up in the air. That's why we said you have to rethink everything. You have to look at everything. Jay Sasquana said, no, Stella, I must thank y'all. No, Jay, thank you. We appreciate all the information that everybody brings over.
Told you, Jay, we're going to drop it.
Mike Easton says that is possible. Remember, the American Aborigines have been doing trade with the world way before the Europeans ever came into power. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And many of my ancestors were in control of what you consider the Navy. Go ahead, Bones.
And also remember, when the Spanish came here, there was already trade routes set up with French Huguenots, which are Protestants, and American Indians. They were living around each other when the Spanish got here. There was already colonies here. Remember, a lot of these French lived along our ancestors for over 1,000 years. Look up Levi Hutchinson. 550 years before they knew who Columbus was.
So this is not some truthers telling you that, majority of the world was swarthy. This is not some American Indians telling you this. This is not Native Americans telling you. This is the government. This is government records. As much as Benjamin Franklin is lauded, as much as he is respected as being one of the most profound founding fathers of these here United States, why would he lie? And why would they record it if he's lying? I'm just saying. Jay Sasquan says there is more proof. Yeah, we know. Excuse me. We know, Jay. And the goal is to continue to expose this information and bring it out. Many of y'all know about this, but we need to get other people to know too. So definitely appreciate you. So you want to go ahead and finish?
Yes, Mike.
Go ahead.
No, disagreeing with Mike. Yes, the French been around us longer than some people want to acknowledge. The majority of all your states that you think are English names are French. The majority of all your cities are French. The majority of the words that we use are French.
They're all French fries.
He said it correctly. He said that's how the French were mostly our allies. They never brought large numbers of people to these shores as a research. New France, that's what I see. Yeah, they never really had to bring a lot of people over here because they had been doing business with our ancestors, and our ancestors understood French. That's the reason why France is not our chief language, because the French did not want us to associate us being conquered by them. So they taught us English in the Indian schools.
List something like English, something like French. Because who sits in England? The French Protestants, they got kicked out of France, and where did they go? To England. How does a nation that don't have a whole lot of people, that just came out of a war, come up with all these finances? These French Protestants that were aristocrats that sat on the money in France.
AKA the Huguenots.
Bingo.
Oh yeah.
Remember, this war is between Protestants and Catholics.
Always has been, and will continue to be that way for some time until there's a change. So,
matter of fact, when you read their words, they let you know America's a what nation? A Protestant nation?
Mm-hmm.
And people keep thinking Catholics run America. No.
No. So
there is no difference between the French and the English, Trav. The English are the French.
Exactly.
England is a DBA. We mentioned this before. Don't look at these countries as land masses. Look at them as DBAs, doing business as. Because the French, the Germans, the Italians, the Spanish, you can run them all back to the Franks. They all come from the same family. They all go back to being Franks.
That's true. Same language family, same peoples.
The earliest data of... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You about to answer. You got it.
Yeah, the earliest data of the French being here in Spanish records when they came, 1550, there were Huguenot colonies in what we know as Jacksonville. They had orders to come here, and they killed everybody in them colonies. When the Spanish got to South America, there were already Huguenot colonies set up in South America. Look up the French colonies of South America. Look up the French colonies of what we know as Africa. You come to find out these Huguenots named Africa. They created the African language. They are the Africans and Afrikaners. This is their history. Their statues and stuff are still there in South Africa.
And also too, if you talk to some of the tribes, they'll tell you that the French have been here for almost 1,000 years, if not longer. So they were here hundreds of years before the French, before the Spaniards and the English got here. And when the English colonies got here, they were sending French with them. So the French Huguenots, how do you think the Protestants got over here? Who do you think those reverends were? Those ministers. Those ministers were French Protestants. They had influence.
Yep.
They were coming in under English colonies. Remember, there was no French colonies.
Nope.
They came in through the English. But they had already had established relationships with the Indians. Why do you think there's a
Just
such
like
thing
we
as French Canadian, Canada? J Susquehanna put something in the chat.
remember what Portugal, which is the French and all them, and Spain and them said they were going to do? Split the world in two. If you ever paid attention and followed the equator, they split the world in two, Catholic and Protestant. Just pay attention to the map. You notice the majority of all the countries south are what? Catholic. All the ones north are Protestant.
The majority of your cathedrals are north of the Mason-Dixon line. Majority of your large mega churches are south of the Mason-Dixon line or the Bible Belt.
Yep.
Those are Protestant influences.
Yep. Whether it be Lutheran, what is it, Angelical, Baptist, Presbyterian, all those go back to a form of Protestant because they're outside of the Catholic Church. If you're not a Catholic, you're a Protestant, protesting the Catholic Church.
Bones says,
They drop a bomb.
yeah, I gotta do it. Hold on. It's coming. It's coming. Give me a second. Hold your horses. Drop one more. Okay, one more. Here we go. So. J. Susquehanna sent you the link to the memoirs of the Secret Service, and he said if you start at page 63, they'll start giving descriptions. So,
yeah, E.J. Copperstone. If you want to find earlier records of the French in America, just look up Huguenots. You'll find it under the Huguenots. They were here in the 1500s, living among Indians. Look up the St. Augustine Massacre.
Correct.
and what you'll find is that I'm sorry, Bones, go ahead.
They had orders from the king to run down the Huguenots and kill them wherever they found them. This is before the Edict of Nantes was giving them the rights to practice whatever religion they wanted. This is 1500s. And not to mention, you can also look up, like I mentioned earlier, Levi Hutchinson. That's the Viking explorer that came 550 years before they knew who Columbus was. That's who was setting up all them establishments up in the north. A lot of them Viking temples and things that you still see to this day. And again, his name is Levi Hutchinson. Levi is how you spell Levi.
And the Acadians are nothing more than where the Vikings mixed with the Isa. Created Acadians.
Vikings and Indians creating Arcadians. Arcadia.
So you got to realize that the French had a different method of coming here. Their goal was to come here, learn the lifestyle of the Indians, intermarry with them, and get access to the land that way. England and France's goal was to come in and just conquer. You see how that went.
The French got in bed with their ancestors, knowing by doing that, over hundreds and hundreds of years, they'll be so entrenched in. To kick them out, you got to kick yourself out. Ain't that something?
And also, too, they eased in the back door and they left out the back door. That's why we don't pay attention to France. We only focus on England and Spain. Well, not all.
Yeah, everybody looks at France. People look at France like they weak and don't exist. But when you do the history, you come to find out they were the largest empire. Not only did they have influence in what we call America, in South America, in Canada, what you call India today, it was all over there in Asia, all down there in what we call France was everywhere.
Exactly. I know that don't sell out. He's got some other duties he's got to take care of. So what I do is I go ahead and finish this out. Um, you can interrupt me, don't sell out if you're able to do so, but I'll go ahead and finish reading. So we're still on paragraph 24, where he says, "I wish that their numbers were increased." So here we go. It says, "While we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of inhabitants in Mars and Venus. Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people?" I'm going to repeat that again. Because this sets up something that we need y'all to pay attention to, because there's this one line that's going to change everything. Again, many of y'all are probably aware. Everything. It says, "So, and while we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe," because they've already claimed the globe, "reflect a brighter light to the eyes of the inhabitants," making them seem like they're scavengers or savages, "in Mars or Venus. Why should we, in sight of superior beings, in the sight of superior beings, darken his people?" Here we go. "Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America, where we have so far an opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red?"
White and what? Red? R-E-D? Red?
It says, and I quote, "Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America? Well, we have so fair an opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red." But
So red people are who again?
well, he's about to tell us. "But perhaps I'm partial to the complexion of my country." What's the complexion of his country? White and red? The white man and the who man?
So what is the red man again? Not an Indian. Just look in our own culture. What do we call red relatives? Isn't that a high yellow melanated person? Almost so high yellow they can pass for white.
Right. Let me run that back again. "Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies," that means everybody outside from coming in, "of increasing the lovely white and red? But perhaps I'm partial to the complexion of my country," which is what? White and red. "For such kind of partiality is natural to mankind."
And what do we learn about these red people or mulattoes or métis, whatever you want to call them? They can pass, right? Blend right in if you use the eye test, right? So who's the red man again?
Could the red man be that first Native American tribe in the 1500s
that was allowed to identify as a tribe?
That were born here because they had no allegiance to the English. They had no allegiance to Great Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Robinson
you got to remember, it's 1751. You have to look at the terminology in 1751.
Yeah, because they make the definitions, don't they? They change the definitions. Remember, they
And
changed.
that's why they think.
Right. They change the spellings, don't they? They changed the spelling of Slav by adding an E on it in 1788. So if they can change the spelling and the definition of Slav, why can't they change the spelling and definition of just the definition of red?
Mm-hmm. But think about it. What's our definition of red in 2019? A high yellow person. A high yellow one of us who can pass back and forth for white. Hey, that's a red bone. Come on, we grew up saying this. In our own communities, we were doing this.
That's why you have Native Americans and American Indians. Two separate people.
Yep.
Two separate backgrounds.
Remember, a Native American is anyone who was born here. But you have to go back to the time where they was using the term Native American. Who were they talking about? They were talking about these people that were born here with, like TMH just said, no allegiance to England. By definition, you're a Native American. We have to stop using 2019 definitions when we're reading 1700 paragraphs and stories and legal documents. It will always confuse you.
Oh, Cliff got on the head. French Indian mix. Why are all of the Indian tribes up north French? Algonquin, French term.
Yep.
Iroquois, French term.
French.
Sioux, French term.
French terms, all named after the French.
The French
Even
named
the
them.
French Indian Wars. Oh, sorry, teammate.
No, you good. Go ahead, boss.
When somebody mentioned what about the French and Indian Wars in the chat, we must remember it says French and Indian Wars, but physically it was Indian versus Indian. It was Indians that sided with the French, Iroquois, fighting other Indians. Remember, the Iroquois were in bed with the French for the fur trade. The Iroquois were the ones running out, chasing off other Indians from their land so they can dominate the fur trade.
Indigenous American Leo, you have Iroquois blood based off of the French word of Iroquois, but you are actually Haudenosaunee, which basically means people of the Longhouse. That's what they call themselves, Haudenosaunee.
Yeah. They never called themselves Iroquois. Somebody else did.
Again, don't get caught up with the current definition of Redman. You gotta look at the definition that they're using at the time that they're using it and why they're using it.
Mm-hmm. The trick is the words. Like we say a lot, when you're reading something in 2019 that was written in the 1700s, you must use the definitions of that time. If not, you're not going to understand who or what they're talking about, because you're trying to make it fit to this time and not the time that it was written in.
Yeah, Jay Susquehanna dropped the link in the chat dealing with New France. Then I read a portion. Go ahead.
Yes, Pamela Hall. Well, we know black and white don't mean what you was taught to mean. We dropped the video that they snatched down showing you that you had people from the eye test you would consider white. But what was the woman? What was her mother? But they were paler than some of the most pale people. Remember looking at her daughter in the video. The problem is over time, people use these colors to self-identify people. But if you go back and you see the standards on how they did it, you can see the confusion. Because you are who your mother is. Yes, Enrique, The Free State of Jones is a good one that'll tie it up. It's on Netflix.
So does anybody got that link that talks about Benjamin Franklin living in France and what he did while he was in France on behalf of the Huguenots? Anybody know what that link is? Hold on. See if I
Yeah, David Corey, he point one out that somebody should know. Rock Newman. You'll look at him and be like, he white. No, 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 no. Thanks, Oak Cliff. It's just a status. And over time, we started self-applying it to each other.
And this is why I'm putting this link in here, and this is why it's important that we mention the French and Benjamin Franklin. Yup, Benjamin Franklin lived in France for 9 years as an ambassador. He went over there in 1776. And while he was there in 1776, while he was there, you'll understand what he did and why he's so important to the Huguenots. And it goes on to read, it says, after 1764, the Huguenots were increasingly accepted into French society, although without any legal edict decreeing this acceptance. However, persecution was fresh in popular memory. The illustration shows a Protestant being broken on the wheel in Toulouse in 1762. Then it goes on to read about the Edict of Versailles in 1787. In 1787, Louis XVI signed the Edict of Tolerance, also known as the Edict of Versailles. This edict overturned the 102-year-old revocation of the Edict of Nantes, the Edict of Fontainebleau. This came about after French statesmen and philosophers, as well as American visitors to the French court, such as Benjamin Franklin, pressed for legal rights and religious liberties for the Huguenots. Although Catholicism was still at the state religion, the Edict of Versailles enabled non-Catholic worshippers to practice their faith, whether they were Huguenots, Lutherans in the Northeast, or Jews. Then it goes on to read, the French Revolution began in 1789 and lasted 10 years. In 1789, the National Constituent Assembly wasted no time in drawing up the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen. This declared all French citizens equal in the eyes of the law. Some American Protestants objected to the Enlightenment wrongly, in my opinion. This declaration, as is true of the Bill of Rights and Constitution of the United States, was essential for citizens' legal rights and religious practice. It is staggering to think that the American literals living in the suburbs were drawn up by people who didn't share their beliefs. That is a curious attitude to have, especially as those men enabled them to live in the freest country in the world. Okay, then it goes on to say the right to return. So pay attention to these dates. And Bones, this is your cue to chime in. It says the right to return, 1790. 1 year after the 1789 declaration, the French government invited descendants of the Huguenots to return to France with the promise of full citizenship. All persons born in foreign country and descending in any degree of any Frenchman or woman expatriated for religious reasons are declared French nationals, naturals Francis, and will benefit from the rights attached to that quality if they come back to France, establish their domicile here, and take the civic oath. However, it is thought that not many Huguenots returned. Nonetheless, this was an important concession on behalf of the government. It says the Musée Protestant Museum states that in 1791, Protestants in France were satisfied with their rights, emphasizing their original. Bones, what else happened in 1790?
I'm glad that you asked that question. Well, we see it states that a lot of the Protestants refused to come back. And we know where they were living. They were living in the French area. Right after this was signed, it's kind of funny, the Louisiana Purchase happened. Could that be France saying, okay, y'all don't want to come back home? We're going to sell the land that you're living on, so you had no choice but to come back home.
Say it again, please.
The Louisiana Purchase happened where a lot of these French Protestants were living that refused to go back to France. So you sell the land. Taking away their home, so now they're forced to migrate back home.
And Doodle Vision also says that was when the first census came about, first federal census.
Yep. Coincidence? I think not.
So basically what it boils down to, they asked them to come back to France. And when they refused, they created a scenario where they had to go back. Sounds like being asked to go out west, and then when you refuse to go out west, they come snatch you up and then send you to Ghana, to colonize Ghana.
Confiscation Acts 1 and 2.
Well, excuse me, West Africa, not Ghana. Now, we have been asked recently to go to Ghana, right? Ghana's asked us to come home.
I don't know them people.
And now you have all these, new immigration laws. You have all these new laws with the ID cards. You have them popping and them cracking down on immigration. And then you have them wanting to put your immigration status on the census. And now you have to verify who you are based off of what you self-identify as, like none before. Could it be, just possibility, that if history repeats itself, because not enough of us are going to Ghana, could some of us be exported to Ghana? Something to think about.
And like you said, if you study history, every time they had a large influx of immigrants coming in, it was always a push to remove a bunch of us off this land. Every time. It's kind of funny how this new immigration deal and the going back to Ghana trip both take off 2020. Coincidence? I think not.
So don't participate.
It's coincidence.
So don't participate in the census if you don't want to, because they will determine what you are for you. Don't get it twisted.
What was he on his SATs? In that last census, and that last census, and that last census.
You know, every application that you filled out
before you woke up, you didn't update your application at work. Oh man, your status at work is still the same.
Something to really think about. That's why we say here, question everything. Free said something that became my new statement. Who told you? You have to ask who is telling you the information. Where is it coming from? And why? Like Michael Robinson mentioned, we've been read that we know that the French, they were in Southwest Africa first. Then a lot of them came here from Southwest Africa, this same area where they told you they got our ancestors from.
So Pamela Hall asks a question that we love to hear. How are we going to stop this from happening again? Well, number one, let's not allow some organization to speak on our behalf. Let's speak on our own behalf, number one. How about we do that? Stop allowing these nonprofit organizations to come in and sweep us up and then get us all excited about something, and then they come in, they get what they need, and then they leave us out to dry. How about we have our own organizations take care of our own people? How about we find out who we are so we know where we start? Let's start doing that. Start doing your genealogy, tie into your tribe, or at least know who your tribe is. So when you are asked who you are, you'll be able to tell them. Saying you are Aboriginal or Indigenous could basically mean you're trying to tie into a Canadian tribe. And if you can't prove that you came from a tribe in Canada, you might get exported to Ghana because you're being declared as an immigrant. Jay Susquehanna says, hold up, which French are we talking about? The swarthy dark French or the new white French?
Well, both in the sense when you realize that they made an agreement and they came back as whole. But now add another 100 to 200 years on it. When you know their plan was to bleach out, you know this is their plan. So 200 years now, that's why you had the French looking how they look now. Franklin told you what the whole plan was. That they didn't want a whole influx of melanated people coming because then that would keep the U.S. dark when they wanted to lighten it up to make it resemble them. And Pamela asked the question, okay, so why we haven't did that yet? A lot of people are doing it, setting up organizations to do it. But the only way it works on a grander scale, we all must take a personal responsibility to move this forward. We all must take on the responsibility of being very well informed of our local politics, what's going on in our local areas, because that's where you can make the greatest change. Instead of always running to the federal level, to which states don't have to honor that. States have their own laws and their own constitutions.
Which goes back to the fact, I'm sorry, but to prove the point, if that because the federal law was an overarching ruling law, then why are people allowed to buy and smoke marijuana in some states where it's federally illegal to do so? People need to get their heads out their butts and stop thinking that federal law trumps everything, because if it did, you wouldn't be able to smoke in certain states. I'm just saying, people keep ignoring state laws. You can go in DC. You can go to not Cleveland, but you can go to Colorado, Washington State, California, and smoke legally without being hindered. Come to Virginia and try that mess, you end up getting hemmed up. But it's federally illegal. How is it federally illegal when it's legal in the states if the federal law trumps all state law? I will wait for that answer.
Because it never had and never will. Federal government needs the state permission to even enter a state. And yeah, Jay, I know it gets confusing, but you have to realize that's by design. That was their intention. That you interbreed so much to the point to where people don't look like the original people that came over. And then trying to separate who is hard just by looking at somebody. That you must do your genealogy to know who is who. That's the only way it's going. That's the only way it's working out. And yeah, Pamela, you might find French and Germans on your ancestry. And even if they mark white, a lot of times we can't assume that means the color of their skin.
Nope.
Because a lot of times that was the status how a person got ranked. It's just like to this day. A melanated person from Africa come to the U.S., their status is white, depending on what area they come from.
Morocco?
A person that you would call an Arab or a Palestinian, Iranian. When they get over here, their status is white because it's a status.
But again, Jay, I understand what you're saying, but my point of saying that is the states have rights, and the state has a right to allow. So yeah, when you cross a state line and violate that state law, yeah, now you're it's only federal because of the transportation laws. The interstates are owned by who? The federal government. So now you're transporting and you're getting caught on federal law. That's the only reason that's applicable. if each state owns its own roadway, like they own Route One. Route One is not owned by the federal government. Route One is owned by the states. Each part of Route One is maintained by the state. That's why you don't have state police on Route One. Route One runs all the way from Florida all the way to the tip of Canada. So depending on where you're traveling will determine what type what type of law you're in violation of. Anything in the air, federal airspace. Anything on water, federal. But if it's local, it's owned by the state. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bones.
I got one part of our history that should show everybody how it works. Jim Crow was instituted on the state level, right?
Yeah.
Why the federal government couldn't stop it? Why Jim Crow laws still exist to this day if the federal government had that power over states? They don't. The federal government is the agency where states work in between each other with. It's just the oversight when states do business with states. Remember, each state technically is its own country, its own sovereign country. It has its own living constitution and bylaws. What's legal in one state ain't legal in the next state.
That's why prostitution is legal in Nevada and not legal in California.
Facts, E.J. Carpeltone. The whole battle is over Protestant and Catholics, and we got sucked up in the middle of it.
Exactly, Enrique. What's legal in one country may not be legal in the next. That's true. So we got to understand that each state is its own entity.
And then it breaks down from there. Because then from the state, then you have cities. In these cities, you got townships and districts. And each one has their own laws. As long as these cities obey the guidelines of the state, they cool. State ain't gonna come down talk. It's just like how TMH always say about how you set up your organization, your constitution and bylaws. If these cities' constitution and bylaws are up to par, the state don't come mess with them. How many of these cities had these racial crimes that not one state official step in and do anything? That's why it's important to start getting involved in politics, not just for you to run, to understand how it works. What's the sense in knowing federal law when you don't know your local law? It's not going to help you. How many people learning case law for federal court, but you're running into a local municipal court and wondering why you're getting slammed on your neck? It doesn't apply. This is not going to happen overnight. There's no easy, fast way out. We didn't get in here in this mess overnight. So we have to stop expecting that we're going to hit a switch or plant a magic bean and wake up in the morning and everything going to be okay. No, if we're not willing to put the work in, if we're not willing to stand up and let our voices be heard, then it doesn't happen.
And here's the thing that I find interesting. People always talk about the United States Constitution, but has anybody ever read their state constitution? Do you even know that you have a state constitution? Here's a copy of the state constitution that I live in. Easy to find. Each state has its own constitution. Why does each state have its own constitution if the United States Constitution is the only constitution that we ever need to do anything to live by? If that's the case, the states wouldn't have one. Why would a state need a constitution? According to these people that spit this rhetoric about the United States Constitution being ruling over everything, you would not need a state constitution because you would be following what? The United States Constitution.
Before they were the United States, they were the individual states. Don't forget that.
Yep.
The individual entities that came together to do business under one name. Like I keep telling y'all, DBAs. Stop looking at land masses. No, they're DBAs, doing business as. All states have charters. All cities have them. They're doing business. The federal government is the CEO of the business.
The United States came together, the separate states came together as entities to form a conglomerate and formed a constitution based off of its conglomeration of how they do things when it comes to interacting and what's allowed versus what's not allowed when they're operating outside of the jurisdiction of each state. That's the only reason that there's a constitution. That's the only reason why you would need a United States Constitution. It's no different than if you were to decide to, your business was to do business or partner with my business. You already have your own constitution and bylaws. I already have my own constitution and bylaws. But in order for us to operate separately, we need to establish laws and rules of engagement so that we can work together and separately without it adversely affecting each other. Period, point blank in the discussion.
That's it. And that's all the federal government is. That body that's in between the states to conduct business. Because if a state takes advantage of another state, who steps in?
The government.
That's why we say you must question everything.
And everybody. Don't just take what we say at face value. Go do the research. Don't just listen to the fact that I say that every state has its own constitution. Look it up. It's easy to find. It's public information.
Mm-hmm. Remember, it has always been business to them. This has nothing to do with color, skin, or nothing. Why do you create a class system? For business. In order to consider yourself a winner, what must you need?
A loser.
A loser. But what's better if I can create the loser and always keep them in the loser position, always keep them in debt? If I can keep you in forever debt, that means I will be forever wealthy. That's their plan.
And in order for them to succeed in their plan, they had to create a new race of man. The red man.
Yep.
The red man became the Indian who was to replace us.
You're middle class.
Jay Sasquana says Georgia has what are the strongest state constitution that works in the people's favor, but is never used. Well,
Facts, Jay. That's why Georgia hasn't been touched like all the other states. There's a reason for it.
So if you wanna enact change, you have to. It's imperative because I can't tell you what you have to do. But if you really wanna know a solution, here's a solution, not the solution. One, find out who you are. Because without knowing who you are, where you gonna start? You might be fighting for a cause that has absolutely nothing to do with you. So find out who you are. Number two, get involved in your local government. Get involved with your local community. By the time you get up to the federal level, those entities and those people are already entrenched. It's very difficult to do anything from the federal level if you have not started working in your own state.
I got a question. We know that the Constitution, the federal Constitution, that's dealing with the federal government and the states. So the First Amendment, the Amendment of Free Speech, who do you think they're talking to? your state representatives. Ain't no free speech for no everyday person. Go on air and say something that somebody don't like and watch what happens to you. The right to bear arms pertaining to militias. This is the state and the federal government talking back and forth. See the misinterpretation? People place the individual in there. This agreement has nothing to do with the individual. And I'll say again, now that you know that who the Constitution is applying to, relook at that First Amendment. Now look back at your state representatives and your politicians that get jammed up in these things that they say and things that they do, and the next day they're walking around freely. But if you go on YouTube and you say the racial apathy, you gone. Think about it.
Gone.
Who is forming militias? Who can form a militia? Ain't a militia state sanctioned?
Yep.
So the right to bear arms pertaining to a militia is talking to who again? When they did the Constitution, there wasn't no individual representatives there. There was some state representatives, though. And don't you elect people from your state to speak for you? So whatever they say technically is what you say? Your state can start a police force. Can you go out and do that?
So Copper just put in the definition of redskin. So let's look at this. And for those of us who live in what we call, sports fans call redskin country, this is very interesting. It says redskin is a slang term for Native Americans in the United States and the First Nations in Canada. The term redskin underwent pejoration through the 19th and early 20th centuries. And in contemporary dictionaries of American English, it is labeled usually offensive, disparaging, insulting, or taboo. The origin of the choice of red to describe Native Americans in English is debated. While related terms were used in anthropological literature as early as the 17th century, labels based on skin color entered everyday speech around the middle of the 18th century. At the start of the 18th century, Indians and Europeans rarely mentioned the color of each other's skin. By mid-century, remarks about skin color and the categorization of people by simple color-coded labels, red, white, black, had become commonplace. Although the term has almost disappeared from common use, it remains as the name of many sports teams, most prominently the Washington Redskins, and the term's meaning was been significant point of controversy. The controversy has led to high schools, the United States changing their team name as a result of the protests of Native American government, regulations, and voluntary action. So let's see. It goes on to say, documents from the colonial period indicate that the use of red as an identifier by Native Americans for themselves emerged in the context of Indo-European diplomacy in the southeastern region of North America, before later being adopted by Europeans and becoming a generic label for all Native Americans. Linguistic evidence indicates that while some tribes may have used red to refer to themselves during the pre-Columbian era, based upon their origin stories, the general use of the term was in response to meeting people who called themselves white and their slaves black. The choice of the red rather than other colors may have been due to cultural associations rather than skin color. Red and white were a dictum that were a dichotomy, that had pervasive symbolic meanings in southern native cultures, which was less prevalent among other tribes. While there was occasional use of red in Indian-European diplomacy in the Northeast, it was still rare there even after it had become common in the Southeast. Instead, Indian was translated into the native language. There is men, real people, or original people. Usage of the Northeast origin northeast region by Europeans may have been largely limited to descriptions of tribes such as Biota of Newfoundland, whose practice of painting their bodies and possessions with red um, ochre led Europeans to refer to them as Red Indians. Early ethnographic writers used a variety of terms: olive stray, olive, by Francois Bonnier, Rufus Ruddish, uh, Linnaeus, Comfera, Copper Red, Blumenbach, and eventually simply Red by Rene Lesson. Early explorers and later Anglo-Americans termed Native Americans light-skinned, brown, tawny, or russet, but not red prior to the 19th century. Then it says
That last part one more time again.
Anglo-Americans termed Native Americans light-skinned, brown, tawny, or russet, but not red prior to the 19th century. So then it goes on to say use of the English adjective red in reference to American Indians as a race is first recorded in the 1720s. A combination with skin to form the term redskin can be dated to 1769. It arises from translations of French Peyot Rouge, which is in turn had been written by a French translator from the Miami, Illinois language in a letter sent by three chiefs of Piancasas to Colonel John Wilkins. The term here refers to warriors specifically. The term redskin enters wider English wider English usage only in the first half of the 19th century. Ives Goddard pointed out that what had previously been considered the earliest attestation of the term, a later purported to have been written to an English living in Hadley, Massachusetts in 1699, was spurious. Okay, let's see. It says,
so if we wasn't considered red, who they talking about?
Right. And it also says, Gooders, alternatively, etymology is a term emerged from the speech of Native Americans themselves, and that the origin use of the term in the late 18th and early 19th century has begun. When it first appeared, it came in most respectful context at the highest levels. These are white people and Indians talking together, with the white people trying to interrogate themselves, ingratiate themselves. Excuse me. The word later underwent a process of pejoration, by which it gained a negative connotation. Could have suggested that the redskin emerged from the French translation of Native American speech in Illinois and Missouri territories in the 18th century. He cites as the earliest examples of 1769 set of talks or letters from the chiefs of the Piankeshaw to the English officer at Fort Des Charters. One letter included, I'm not even going to pronounce that word, and it translates to "if any redskin." And second included another French phrase which translates as "all the redskins." However, in an interview, Goodard admitted that it is impossible to verify that the native words were accurately translated.
So who's the red man again?
Sounds like it would be the Europeans, the settlers.
The Matisse, the children, the ones that can blend in on either side.
So yeah, they didn't start using red to start talking about Indians until the late 1800s, early 1900s.
And you know that they twist words however they want to.
Of course.
We know that if you're talking about a ruddy cow, a ruddy horse, that's going to give you that deep, beautiful brown. So we know, like what the word actually means and who should be being referred to. But you have to remember, these are proxy people. They act like a virus. They look for a host. And at the end of the day, they want to assimilate. And they will switch something up on you real quick. That whole lectio difficilio, or we don't say that because we enjoy saying difficult words. It's that sense of there's always a overlaid reading in anything that they try to give you. It's like a mixed message in a bottle, more or less. And it's up to you to decipher the truth. They figure that you're not going to look for it if they put it in a book. Prove them wrong.
Yeah,
You get
just
through their
regurgitate
spell, who
something somebody
cares how
told
they
you.
layer stuff? Right, Bones.
And AJ Carpenter says, if red derives from rustic or rut, how does it not apply to us? Again, EJ,
Well,
it's
that's
about the definition that it was how it was used then. Remember, it didn't start pertaining to us or American Indians or Native Americans until late 1800s, early 1900s. By this time, the Europeans, well, the English had been here almost 300 years. So of course it's
Having
going
these
to
mixed children.
right, and so of course they're going to want it to apply to the Native Americans now because they're more quote unquote what they would determine as red. Like when your face blushes and it turns red. Again,
right.
Mm-hmm.
They switched it up on you intentionally, trying to hide identity and also put proxies in places where they don't belong. And look
I
how
mean, let's
long
break
it
it
took
down.
for us
Oh,
to
sorry.
decipher the truth.
And just look at your so-called pale European. Would you, let's be honest, we say white, but they're not white. If you be honest, they do have a glorious red tint. When they're angry, mad, emotional. What color is that skin?
And if that's hard to digest, go back to the improved order of Redman. We just went
Yep.
over that information 2 days last week. And there was a reason we did that. It was prep work to prepare for this now, to see exactly what was being said and how much they were trying to take different things to basically make them appear to be Indians. The same ones that dressed up for the Boston Tea Party.
it's the same ones that was responsible for the organization that created the Indian schools. The one in Pennsylvania and Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University. Yes, Hampton University, HBCU, was originally an Indian school.
Yep.
Oh, one of them real HUs? Was it Indian school? Okay.
I like that. One of them HUs.
One of them HUs. The real
One of
HU.
them. One of them you.
One of them U's. One of them Hughes.
So yes, this can be very confusing. It can be very frustrating, but that's the way that it was designed. That's the reason why. Think about this. Why is it easy for Europeans to know their genealogy and it always comes up and it's so hard for us to do ours? That's by design. Because once you know who you are, they can't tell you who you are not. And then you know where to start. That's the reason why it's easier to start where you're at. Start with your community. You're not going to be able to galvanize people in Texas if you live in Georgia. It's not going to happen. They don't know you. You can try to prove me wrong if you want. I'd love to see it happen. I would love to be wrong in that instance. But plane flights are expensive and it's a long drive from Texas to Georgia. Let something happen to you, see how fast they get there. Pamela, to answer your question as far as I found out the information, I would start looking at the French archives. Start looking at their records, and hopefully the Google, if you're using Google or if you're using Bing or some search engine, it will translate into English for you because you know it's probably going to be in French.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to embed a portal to their archives through the website and have it translated already. See if they let us do it without no hassle.
So let's look up the term red bone. That's a slang we use for our fair complected brothers and sisters. It's a term historically used in much of the southern United States to denote a multiracial individual or culture. In Louisiana, it also refers to a specific geographically and ethnically distinct group. Now that I did not know. The term
Yep, go ahead, drop it on them.
The term has had various meanings according to locality, most implying multiracial people. In Louisiana, the Redbone culture group consists mainly of the families of migrants to the state following the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. The individuals may have ancestral ties to the Melungeons. The term Redbone becomes disfavored as it was a pejorative nickname applied by others. However, in the past 30 years, the term has begun to be used as a preferred description for some Creole groups, including the Louisiana Redbones.
Ha!
Now remember, your Melungeons and your Creoles are two different people. Your Melungeons
Yep.
are individuals. Your Melungeons are your Cajuns, right?
Later on, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your Cajuns, and those are the
Your Arcadians, your Vikings,
Thank
and
you.
Easter.
Northern French.
Right, your Northern French, and your Creoles are your Southern French. Again, North versus South. See what else he put. Trying to reach all the links. Put this link in the chat. Oh, I did that already. All right. Oak Cliff says Acadian mix. Yes, Acadians are the descendants from the Vikings and the Isa.
You might find them under Métis. They're considered to be an Aboriginal group to Canada. Therein lies another problem why you must do your genealogy. Some of these people been here for so long that their children are considered Aboriginal to this land.
Yep. No worries. That's what we're here for. Let's see the Redbone Nation.
This information should start showing people in all so-called nations, people came in a variety of colors or shades, from the darkest of dark to the lightest of light.
Right. Let's see. Mm.
I mean, think about it. We see it in our families that some of us got relatives that are so light that they can pass for the other side. Then others of us are so dark, we only pass it for one thing.
So this is something that Copper dropped in the chat. He says, Maharan people are closely related to the Tuscaroras and Nottaways. We were once one people sharing the same language. Maharan core surnames are your Archers, Bissell, Boone, Brown, Collins, Flood, Hall, Hunter, Lassiter, Lewis, mainly Pugh, Reed, Reynolds, Robbins, Smith, and Weaver. Then it says other Maharan surnames are Cumbo, Baker, Butler, Shabbos, Jordan, King, Lang, Luton, Mitchell, Mount Pleasant, Nickens, Pierce, Sears, Turner, and Webb. It says many of our families can be traced back to the individuals who lived in the Tuscarora Indian Woods Reservation and were documented in land leases made in 1766 and 1777. Some families can be traced back to other neighboring tribes in Virginia. In 1761, the Maharans were incorporated into the Tuscarora Nation as the community disbanded and relocated or commonly moved back to their area of Maharantown. So then it goes on and talks about the timeline.
Facts, EJ Carpetone, and that's what they did by bringing it in, by implementing their system. They don't even separate people by color anymore. We do it voluntarily.
It said the Maharans are an Iroquois nation. We share allegiances, culture, traditions, and language with the Haudenosaunee Iroquois Confederacy, and were even taken under the protection of the Confederacy in the 19th century. The Maharans shared the same spoken language with the Tuscarora. This language, Scarure, is very closely related to Mohawk and other Iroquois language. There is no major archaeological distinction between Maharan artifacts and those of the Tuscarora and other Haudenosaunee. Iroquois people had uniquely Iroquois longhouses, pottery styles, and burials. Our oral history and archaeological evidence places our ancestors in what is now North Carolina and Virginia at least 1,200 years ago. This was about the time that ancestors of the Maharan, Tuscarora, and Nottoway diverged from the core Proto-Iroquois group, also the common ancestors of the Mohawk, the Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and Conestoga. The history of the Kawistakas, the Maharan people, is unique from our migration to what is now North Carolina, Virginia in ancient times to the ongoing struggle for sovereignty and tribal identity. We are proud peoples and have endured much to be in existence today. We owe this to our ancestors and are thankful for all they've done. This is our story. Pamela says, okay, I thought I was being punished. No, Pamela, you're not being punished. Things get switched around and changed around. What else? Melunja. I just did that. Okay.
I'm studying the Melungeons now.
Pamela says, yes, I'm being spoiled. That's okay, Pamela. We'll let you be spoiled. And we also must make mention to people that they got to realize that Benjamin Franklin was also a Mason, which goes into his ties with the Huguenots and the fact that he was from the 13 colonies, which was Protestant. So they had no allegiance to the Catholic Church.
None whatsoever. And the question I wanted to ask earlier when we was reading about it, we know that Benjamin Franklin did all this traveling, went to France, spoke on the behalf of the Huguenots. It's interesting when you find out who financed him.
Who financed?
The Huguenots.
Ah.
That's why he was speaking on their behalf. Who gave him the instruments to go live over there for 9 years?
Makes sense. Let's see.
Makes you think. If he went to France, for France to recognize America as a sovereign nation, and speaking on the behalf of the Huguenots, this country was set up by who again?
Huguenots.
Matter of fact, all our presidents been Protestant except for 2, and they got a bullet to the head. Oops.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
We got to remember, the ruler Napoleon, he kicked the Pope out. So if a French ruler can kick the Pope out, what does that mean?
The Vatican don't run nothing but they mouth. Next.
Dun, 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 dun. Don't let the layers on these stories fool you. Yes, the Statue of Liberty was built in France. And a little homework assignment for the relatives. Go look at the Huguenot statue of South Africa. And then you'll realize what came before the Statue of Liberty. You'll realize who that image is really of and what is it representing. But they'll make you think France was so small. If France was so small, why was they the superpower that allowed America to become a sovereign nation and couldn't nobody do anything to France about it? Now, Pamela Hall, look deeper into it. If you want to know more about the Statue of Liberty, go study the Huguenots in Southwest Africa. You'll find out who that statue really is. And again, that's the Huguenots in Southwest Africa, right after the expulsion of the Protestants from France. It's just something to think about. How the panel feeling right now this rising?
Antonio said, peace in the chat, just checking mental notes. Here's a picture of what the original Statue of Liberty looked like before it was before rust set in on the copper. Give me a second. That's what the Statue of Liberty looked like in the 1800s. So that's what the Statue of Liberty looked like before oxidation. Just in case you were
Yeah, he represents liberty, Protestant liberty, to spread across the world. They'll tell you what their mission was. Well.
Well, what?
Another one of them rising shows.
Yeah, Play.
Yeah.
Your hard hats
Bree
working.
got the favorite statement for me. I love it. Who and why?
Exactly.
And let's also remember, these Huguenots, a lot of them are swarthy too.
Mhm. Exactly.
And a lot of people ask the question, what happened to them? The swarthy people of Europe.
Good
Well, out of
question.
that 15 million, a couple of million got mixed in with us.
Yep. They
To the
became
point where our ancestors started self-identifying as them, so they'll be able to buy land because what? At this time, Europeans were given the right to buy and purchase land here, when Indian land was being confiscated and having to be removed. So if you look like these people and all you got to do is walk around with some wooden shoes in the Bible and you're safe, wouldn't you do it? You're talking about people trying to protect their families, their children, their wives, the elders. They did the most sensible thing that they thought would work at the time. No different than what people do today.
Yep. No different.
That's why this research is very important. So moving forward, we don't make the same mistakes. Before we make a decision that affects our future, we must be well informed on the consequences, the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or you jump on something that benefits you for the first 5 to 10 years. After that, your whole generation suffering.
No.
Could that be why they got pictures? They had pictures at some of these times, but they make sure they don't show you a whole lot of pictures of these people coming off these ships.
Man.
Because then you ask the question, if melanated people were bought here as slaves, why are they getting off these ships?
Very possible. I'm trying to look up something right quick.
No problem.
You missed a lot, Antonio. Hold on. Basically, what it boils down to, Benjamin Franklin was ranting. So we read a rant in one of his letters, his memoirs or his journals, which is actually in the National Archives. I'll repost it in the chat. And it basically laid out the plan that the colonizers had when they got here in the early 1500s. And then as they're looking to or contemplating on teaming up with France, France is like, okay, well, we want to start sending Germans over there to the colonies. Well, these Germans are swarthy. And Benjamin Franklin's like, well, we don't have a lot of white people on the planet as it is. And if you bring all those swarthy Germans over here, then you're going to basically wipe us out. So in his rant, he admitted that all of the United States, all the continents were swarthy, except for what was it? An Anglo colony and a couple of Europeans. And their goal was to white out the country. And he admitted that he considered his people white and red. That was one of the last things he had mentioned on paragraph 24 of the article. So we went into, the definition of the red man. Who is the red man? The red man is an amalgamation of the English and our people to create the red race, the Native American, who became a tribe to eventually replace us. So basically that's what you came in on in a nutshell. Did I miss anything, Bones?
Nope. Basically letting them know where all this racial stuff come from.
Oh, and also too, that in 1790, France basically granted amnesty to the Huguenots to try to get them to come back to France and take the oath. Many Huguenots did decide to do that, so in 1803, France sold Louisiana to Europe, thus taking a home of the Huguenots right from up under their feet. And we was talking about in the event that you get invited to go somewhere and you end up not leaving, they end up moving you out. And this always in conjunction with a huge influx of immigrants. So we started talking about, there's a huge influx of immigrants coming now. And where they trying to get us to go? Ghana. What census is coming up? The 2020 census. What are they big on enforcing? Immigration. Why is every state is moving to what type of identity card? To a driver's license with a passport. When was the last time that you need a passport to travel internationally in the States? Reconstruction. Something smells afoot. If you don't know who you are, you might end up going somewhere you don't want to be. So, I think I caught you up.
What is the Real ID Act again? Let me see. Everybody with a license got an RF signal chip in your license, meaning they know where you at all times.
Well, they already know where you at all times anyway with your cell phone. So, they're going to find you.
Yeah, didn't the Patriot Act state that all Americans are responsible to spy on each other?
Mm-hmm.
And we got these digital devices that we walk around playing these games, holding our cameras up, just recording everything. But it's fun, though.
Mm-hmm.
Until it's not.
When I was in Europe, Antonio, my phone was acting weird. When we landed in Spain, it was cracking out a little bit. So yeah, no, it ain't just you. So, I mean, this ain't a game, people. Better know who you are. TJ, Mr. TJ says, easy to find, Monday through Friday, I'm in the cab. We appreciate that, Mr. TJ. But Darren Wood says, if you run around with African American on your ID or anywhere else, you could possibly be deported. That's what I'm feeling like it's headed. I mean, there's a strong possibility, yeah. Because what does it mean to be African American? What are you actually saying, especially when we're looking at immigration laws, how they operate, how they move? What are they saying?
Well, look up how many self-identifying African Americans have been deported already. You'll be shocked. The young lady now, what, 6-7 years in Mexico, still trying to fight to come back?
Mm-hmm.
And she not even Mexican. She happened to use a name that identified back to somebody that was an illegal immigrant. And they deported her out to Mexico. Family still fighting for her to come back. Look how many of these so-called celebrities got jammed up. Most Def, even 21 Savage. These people are not playing. Does that mean be afraid? No, it means do your due diligence to get your affairs in order so you don't get caught off guard.
The in-laws have moved in with us.
And our adult children are here.
So we say,
And the reason why African American is a misnomer, where's your African ties? Where's your African paperwork? You're claiming to have dual citizenship. And you're saying that Africa is your first country and America is your second. But if you don't have paperwork from your first country to be in this country, what you think gonna happen? Yeah, ASAP Rocky stuck in Sweden. Oh, wishing he would have never went now, I bet. And the thing is, they got tape showing that he was innocent. They let him back in the country.
So I'm going to read this, and I just typed in how many blacks have been deported to. How many blacks have been deported out of the United States last year? It says, it's getting hard to sustain the outrage, but
hard hat warning.
Yes, we must. Trump administration has now increased the deportation of undocumented immigrants back to Mauritania, a country known for enslaving its black residents. Yes, you heard right. Literally, black slavery. Immigration policies and practices are never easy, and even administrations with the best of intentions have done things for which this country should be ashamed, including the Obama administration. We should never forget that, and it should be top of mind when we vote in November in 2020 and beyond. But the Trump administration, led by a man who has reportedly deemed non-white immigrants, has taken things to all new lows. He's trying to curtail legal immigration by the millions in order to slow down demographic changes that are projected to transform the U.S. into a majority-minority nation. He's trying to break the will of the undocumented immigrants who show up on our southern border by essentially stealing their children, many of whom are unlikely to even be returned to their parents. Now Donald Trump, Kanye West hero, is ramping up the deportation of black men and women to the country it knows traffics in black slavery. Apparently, Kanye and others might be okay with such a move because, after all, slavery is a choice, right?
Yeah, sending you over there to Africa where them people believe in enslaving people and selling them. That's where y'all want to go?
Dude, this shit crazy. He says, I'm typing up that paperwork now. Not quite. So he didn't say undocumented blacks. He says Donald Trump is ramping up the deportation of black men and women to a country it knows traffics in black slavery.
Ain't that place they call Africa? Ain't that what Ghana at? Go on there.
Gonna get you.
Y'all better start getting caught up in the Kool-Aid flavors. Realize they're all made by the same company.
And it said blacks deported to Mauritania. It didn't say Indians. Oh, check this out. It says, and they're going to some of this guys, this gentleman is from Mauritania. It says, Sidi Malik Dianji is a native of Mauritania, an Islamic republic of the edge of the Sahara Desert in northwest Africa. But the 64-year-old is also an Ohioan from 2001 until June of last year. He said he lived in Columbus, where he was part of the nation's largest community of Mauritanian refugees and immigrants. Likely, like the roughly 6,000 other Mauritanians who have made Ohio home, he was expelled from his native country in the late 1980s. A dispute with Senegal on Mauritania's southern border erupted in violent conflict and gave the Arab leadership in Mauritania an opportunity to disperse its black population. Estimates vary among scholars and international human rights organizations, but anywhere from 70,000 to 150 black Mauritanians were accused of being Senegalese and deported. Now here's the thing that you gotta pay attention to. It says, but anywhere from 70,000 to 150,000 black Mauritanians were accused of being Senegalese and deported. What's a black Mauritanian?
Dark-skinned person from Mauritania.
But why would you have to say a black Mauritanian? So you're not deporting white Mauritanians?
Nope, only the dark ones because they can identify them with coming from someplace else. See the problem when they lumped all of us in? Now you tie back into what Benjamin Franklin was saying. You can deport any melanated person because they look like the people that you're sending them to. Especially when you're self-identifying as an African American.
Say it again.
When they know a lot of these Africans came here during the wars on that continent, and they've been here for, 40, 60 years, some of them have, blended in. Because if we so African, why on the U.S. Census they got them 4 million Africans that's in this country listed different than us?
So if you claim an African American, you better not tell them you're from Mauritania. They might send you back. They might deport you. Or they might claim you're Senegalese.
You don't even have to say that that's where you're from. Just by you saying African American, they can link you to any one of these countries where these people look like you. I said the sister they deported to Mexicans, she not even Spanish, don't speak Spanish, family not Spanish, but they deported her to Mexico.
So now do y'all understand the importance of doing your genealogy? I'm just saying, you ain't gotta.
Well, people say, oh, why I gotta prove who I am? Well, if you got some people at your house ready to deport you, when you want some paperwork saying who you officially are, instead of telling them this who I am, take my word for it. Your life, your freedom is on the line. Wouldn't you value some paperwork in black and white stating who you are? This is your life, your generations and generations of life here we talking about. You trying to tell me that's not worth having down on paperwork, hard concrete evidence? That's not worth it? But I got a lotto ticket. What?
I'm just saying, so something to think about. And this is happening in guess where? Ohio.
Oh, what did we read about Ohio last week? Oh. Oh.
They're good for deporting people, ain't they?
Especially our people. Ohio. That's probably what it was meant to say, not Ohio. Oh, bio. Are they waving bye-bye as they ship you out?
Bye-bye.
Oak Cliff says Cleveland Brown. Not for long. Cleveland gonna be Matisse.
They should
remember, none of them new Cleveland Browns. That ain't the original Cleveland Browns. The original Cleveland Browns are the Baltimore Ravens.
But Mike said but an American Negro is an American Negro. Not once the 2020 census hit, American Negro will be extinct.
Yeah, they taking Negro off the census.
Yes, sir.
Woo! Y'all better rewind these tapes we putting out.
The American Negro is coming off the census. So you won't be. The last time you had to claim American Negro was at the 2010 census, and I didn't claim that. I claimed Indian. But anyway,
you held on to it. It's a keepsake now.
Yep. Just like they took mulatto off.
So yeah, you can't claim American Negro no more. It's not an option. And if you think about it, that was the last connection between us and India.
Because in history, it tells you that they changed the Indian status to Negro. But now if you erase Negro off the census, where's your connection?
And also, too, this census is a time, the 28th census, that's going to usher in our ancestors, many of us whose parents, some grandparents, were born in the 50s. You should be able to see their names on the census and what they got them listed as, and match it up to the birth certificate and see what it says.
2021.
Yep. Because I can almost promise you, my parents' census records was going to read black, even though their birth certificates read Negro. Because my birth certificate reads Negro.
Yep, mine too.
So.
But it's going to show you how your parents were Negro. But then by the 1900s, well, by the 80s, 1990s, everybody became African American and black. Well, no, you didn't become African American on the census until 2000.
Yep. So there's only two censuses where you can declare African American.
Yep, only the 2000 and 2010. Before that, it was black, and you was able to claim black from 1920 to 2000.
Yep.
Ain't that something?
Why they keep changing our nationality? And notice that they're going to be putting black with African American this time.
Mm-hmm. Pretty soon, our status is going to be "Hey you" at the rate they going.
And African American is attached to African. It's not separate this time.
Yeah.
Like it was in 2010. It's connected.
You don't even get no original people. You get racial groups, something that don't exist, something they made up on the spot.
So,
I ain't gonna say black racial groups of Africa, and we know Huguenots created the name African and the language. And
all right, I think we just split enough wigs for the day. Let these good people go out.
let me real quick.
Go ahead.
On the census, yes, claim American Indian. Because on the census, it only pertains for the census. That classification only deals with the allocation of resources. So you should be claiming American Indian if that's what you are on the census. The less of us who claim that's the more Indian land that they can buy up. That's the more of our resources that they can take. You do not have to have a whole list of paperwork to claim American Indian on the census. Not on the census, you don't. And please fill it out, because if you don't, they will fill it out for you.
Mess around and wonder why ICE be coming to your door. Talking about time to go back to synagogue.
No.
Sheena Miles says, my great grandmother was born on the Creek Reservation. What do I do? You have access to that roll? If that's the case, then you can match her born date and death date with that county, with the Creek Reservation. You have to give them a call.
That's it. If you have relatives that actually tie back into reservations and you have them records, it's a lot more easier. Somebody just came in. That's them donuts,
No, it's
pancakes.
just me.
Thought that was no sellout in Nikki dropping off breakfast.
Nope. Sorry to disappoint.
Sheena says, yeah,
Oh,
but
I
I
ain't
ain't
about
part of, Sheena says, I ain't part of the no nation though. Y'all know they don't do dark skin. Well, I don't know they don't do dark skin until we actually give them a call and let them tell us they don't do dark skin. That's the thing we gotta
Yeah.
stop doing. We gotta stop taking people's word for it. They ain't ever talked to a tribe, especially a particular tribe.
Last I remember, I'm surrounded by a lot of melanated people that's tied back into their tribes, and they're dark skinned.
Mm-hmm. Very true. The whole point is we really have to start breaking down the whole mental construct. Just because they told us something doesn't mean that we have to take it and run with it. Like, enough of that. That gets us nowhere. Time to stop being stagnant. Drain off all that stagnant water. It needs to be just fresh flowing water from here on out. Real talk.
Mm-hmm. It's a must, because like Free always said, who said that they don't accept us because of the color of our skin? Who told you this? Last I checked, what? About a month ago, Koch India was with the Tuscarora, back with his tribe at a powwow.
Mm-hmm. And I met a gentleman. Yeah, I met a gentleman. Talked to him. He's a business developer, and he's a Tuscarora, and he's in North Carolina, Charlotte, and his company is ran up under his tribe. So he melanated. So I mean, again, who's telling you this stuff?
Yeah, the hearsay and shearsay, I guess.
Matter of fact, we ain't got to go that deep. Ain't TMA talking heavy rising?
Don't Voodoo be in the chat?
Don't the majority of us on it? Well, yeah, I can say the majority of us on this panel go tie back to the Sioux.
Issa, not the Sioux.
You know I'm being funny when I say that.
Issa, bro, not the Sioux. Issa, there's a difference. Trust and believe, there's a difference.
Oh, you know I know. Every time I see something, I get mad. I'm still looking for that flux capacitor for that DeLorean. I got some ancestors I need to talk to. Straight up. Yeah, so we have to stop going by what people say people don't allow and this and that. Because if your records are intact, you done did your due diligence, you have your family members, you have their files, they tell you no, that's a lawsuit. But the majority of the time, once you pass in all that information, they can't deny you. We can't expect to not do our due diligence, look for a surname, oh, that surname matches the name I have now, that's my people. No, it doesn't work that way. We got to be willing to do the research. And knowing what we know, that should even push us even more. Knowing that there's millions of people in this land that look like us, that talk like us, that move like us, but they're not us. So if we don't do this research, if we don't get our paperwork together, it makes it easier for people to do identity fraud. Because the people identity that they taking don't even know their identity is being taken. And if you do know it's being taken, you don't even know how it's being taken from you. And what's even worse, a lot of these people that you think are taking resources from you, I'm going to say this again, we might not like it, but the majority of these people tie back to tribes on our land, back to our ancestors. Even worse, some of them are our cousins. We don't have to like it, but it is what it is.
Man, I don't know if they heard that, but okay.
I'm going to say it again. We know that a lot of these people took on two wives, an Aboriginal wife, a European wife, had children with both sets. These children are brother and sister. No matter how you feel, no matter what you say, you cannot change the fact that they're brothers and sisters.
Thanks.
Now look at your brother and sister. Their mom might be different. That's still your brother. So you're in a position of power. Your brother stepped to you with a deal. What's most likely going to happen? Don't we see that in U.S. government and politics now? The cronyism, it's heavy.
Nepotism.
Nothing's
Indeed.
new up under the sun. And then our ancestors elect these Métis, a lot of these pale-looking people, to speak for us because they thought they would get a better deal with these Europeans. Joseph Brenton didn't come in and put no gun, no arrow to nobody's throat to get power. The tribal mothers voted him in.
Because he could pass. Oops. There go that word again.
It's not pretty. And it stings more and more and more the more you dig. But it should sting. The part that should sting is knowing that we've been lied to our whole lives. The part that should sting is knowing that the way that we were raised and grew up in our conditions never had to be this way. That should sting more than anything. And it shouldn't sting to point the finger at nobody else. We should start with putting that thumb back at us. That's the part that should sting. That some of us waited till later on in our life to whatever it is that brought us to this point to start researching. That we should be more mad at ourselves that it took us this long to just link up with our relatives doing this rising show. That's the part that should sting more than anything. Because nobody can do nothing to you unless you allow it. I'm going to say it again. No one can do anything to you unless you allow it. So let's stop allowing this to happen. Let's stop sitting back complaining about situations, but holding our voices when it counts the most.
And
let's stop waiting for somebody to do something emotional for us to come up and be all mad and ready to fight. It's too late then. Go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
I was going to say for Sheena, also too, are you just reaching out to the federally recognized tribes, or are you reaching out to the state recognized tribes in Oklahoma? Because I'm sure there are many out there. They don't just have to be federally recognized for you to be recognized as an Indian. Look at the state recognized tribes as well. We Bones put out a video, I want to say like 2 months ago, that has a list of all of the tribes that are recognized federally and through the state. So there's contact information like phone numbers and emails. So you could just go through that and find the tribes in your area.
That might be more up your alley too, as far as
right. and if you could do that, what you could do is you can reach out to us, and we'll give you a template letter to send them that's going to guarantee that you get a response. Yes, I said guarantee you get a response.
Don't take our word. Peace, Pamela Hall.
That's right.
Peace, relative.
Yeah, again. And also remember, with doing your tribal research, let's not be so quick to jump on the first tribe that we find. Go back and do the research. And when you find these tribes, also research these tribes to find out their start, where they come from. So that way you ain't jumping out of one indoctrination into another. Because some of these tribes are French. Find your band, find your clan. And not to mention, a lot of these tribes got two sides to them, a north side and a south side.
That's the truth.
A dark side and a light side.
Yeah, normally you'll find out the darkers are mainly in the south area. You go north and west, they tend to get lighter. Not saying that you don't, but you see the majority of European-looking type Indians in some areas compared to the southern areas.
Very true.
You got to remember, again, over 1,500 on the state level.
That's a lot.
Don't get caught up with them 5 civilized tribes. Them 5 civilized tribes are the trap. Why they got French names? I'm just saying. And ain't the Cherokee the largest out of all of them?
Mm-hmm. The
By
largest.
far.
And they were the first to convert to Christianity
Yep.
and have churches. So they were the first tribe to convert to a 501c religion.
So if they converted to Christianity, a form that they do nothing about, who is teaching them? These immigrants? So now if these immigrants are teaching them, they're going to mass together, eating together, let's be honest. Ain't there going to be some children produced together?
You
Tribe.
already know.
A tribe that prays together, plays together. You end up
Maybe,
raising
baby.
strays together. I'm just saying.
Maybe, baby.
Making this classic Cherokee that looked nothing like a lot of the people that was running around at the time.
Creating another group of people.
Yep. And haven't we read in history that this didn't happen multiple times up to this point? People branching off, staying amongst themselves, creating a whole new distinctive class of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's on me, baby.
Native Americans. So Bones, I think all of us have been hit upside the head enough today. Hopefully no one's got a concussion. So everybody turn in your equipment to anybody with a ratchet.
What's left of it?
And so we're going to give salutations and let the great people in the chat and the new subscribers and those that are just watching and soaking up this information, use it for your own community. We're going to send you out here on a good note. So, Lady Free, what you got for them?
Well, it's been another amazing build. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Much salute to the panel. You guys are amazing. Chat, you guys are awesome. Got a lot of good tidbits from a lot of the jewels that you guys were dropping as well today. I want to encourage everyone to really just get into that mindset to break up with all the lies, the false narratives, the system that doesn't help you. And when I say system, I mean in terms of the reconstructed confine that was built for your mind to give you an image of what you are or who you should be and who surrounds you. Enough of the lies. Gotta shed them. And in the process, don't be a perpetuator of racism. Remember, it's a small minority of people that's keeping it going. Don't be a part of your own problem. Loving yourself doesn't require you to hate someone else. Please keep that in mind. That's not natural to even think that way or act that way. We have to really ground ourselves and really get back to basics in terms of who we are as a people. And that whole sense of any kind of religious construct that's been placed on you, shake that too. Find your truth. Point blank, period. And that happens by doing your genealogy and rediscovering who you are. Lastly, I'll just say racism is not a victimless crime by any stretch of the imagination because it causes people to suffer. Look what it's done to our people. And just the sense of staying grounded enough, loving yourself enough, staying focused enough to know who you are and also who you're dealing with. And then love your enemy enough to deliver justice to your enemy. A reckoning is definitely coming. Don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. Until next time, you guys stay in power.
No sellout. What you got for the good people, Bo?
Nope. No, you can go ahead. You going up?
So you want me to go ahead for real? I go. Oh gosh. Why do I always gotta do this? I want to say peace to the panel. You guys are awesome. You make what I do easy and a joy. I want to say peace to the new subscribers. And peace to those that are listening and just soaking information up and using it to help your communities. You are an important part to this whole equation. Also, peace to the chat. The best chat ever. Thank you for keeping us on our toes and holding us accountable and holding everybody accountable, not just taking things for face value. And whenever somebody makes a statement, just remember what Free says. The question to ask is, who said that? Who told you that? Where'd you get that from? Make them show and prove. Don't just stop. Let's stop just taking what people say at face value. Talk to this assembly is all about helping people get through their genealogy. So, we're here to help. We are part of a solution. We are not claiming, intimating, or saying that we're the only solution. We're a solution. And there's plenty of proof for the solution. So remember that. Someone's telling you that they can do something, there's another way, make them prove it. And I want to show y'all something right quick. Just to give you a synopsis of the individuals that they're sending, what these people look like that are being deported to Senegal. Now, y'all let me know if y'all have anybody in y'all family that look like this young lady. Shows up. Y'all got family members that look like her? Or claiming African American? She might be, cause she is Senegalese. She is actually from Senegal. I thought she was American. So that's what somebody from Senegal looks like.
See how easy it is? Mistaken identity, especially when you don't know yours and not claiming your rightful one. Or claiming some title that a bunch of people made up for you in a room behind closed doors.
You saw a line and just got in.
Why?
So, think it's a game? That's what somebody from Senegal looks like. So keep that in mind when y'all playing around, thinking this is a game, and y'all going around listening to people that not make them prove what they say. So with that, I relinquish the mic. Y'all take it easy, be easy. Go ahead, don't sell out.
Appreciate everybody for coming out today. Thanks to the chat for keeping it moving, asking good questions, being interactive. Peace to the panel. Thank you guys for starting the show, because I didn't press the button. All the links are in the chat. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, and or corrections, email us at talktothisassembly@gmail.com. Peace, y'all.
All right. Are Copper still with us? I can't see you all still on the panel.
Now it's just us four. Me, you, Free. Don't sell out.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to start it like this. The information that we uncover together with the relatives on these shows isn't to incite anger in anyone. It isn't to make you emotional. It's to show you why it's important to know who you are. Why that should be step one above everything else. Why then, or even asserting yourself in your local community, why it's so important. Why it's so important to know the people that you work with and the people that's around you on a daily basis. Because if not, we're dooming ourselves to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Then from the actions that we do or don't do, we pass these traits down to our children, who repeat these same negative states over and over and over again. So let's make sure that as we uncover this information, that once this show is off and we're not on this YouTube channel together, that as individuals, we do our part. Not to enforce this info, not to make anybody believe, just to put it out there so people can start knowing the difference, so people can start questioning for themselves, start seeing for themselves. We're here for a reason. So let's start back being the keepers of time and take this time that we have together to make a difference that will last the test of time. So 7 generations from now, they can look back and see the starting point. And if they ever need a reminder, they can look back and look at our actions today as a reminder of what we can do together once we are aware of who we are and how we tie into this story. So on that note, it's always fun when we get to kick it with the relatives. No place we'd rather be. If you miss us through the day, you can hit us up at autonomousassembly.com. You can check out AINT, which stands for American Indian Network Television, which is 24/7. You can catch all your past episodes, information, anything that you need through the day. So on that note, until we meet again for tomorrow's Rising Show, everyone have a very, very peaceful day and be blessed. Peace.
Peace and love, everyone.
Peace, y'all.